We're on the list, sir. Why do we have to leave? Why do we have to leave this event? We're on the list. Is it because of our color of our skin?
Obviously not.
So why did you tell us we had to leave? Why do we have to leave? We're on the list, so.
I've been asked to tell you.
Why do we have to leave if we're on the list? Our names are on the list.
On Sunday, activists at a rally for Tennessee Senate candidate Marsha Blackburn were forced to leave, even though they say they were just calmly watching the event. Now one activist is being charged with criminal trespass and resisting arrest. Joining me now to discuss this is the young man in the video that you just saw, Justin Jones. He's a student at Vanderbilt Divinity School, along with Bishop William Barber of the repairers of the breach. Thank you both for being here. Justin, I'm going to go to you first. Give us a little bit of a background of what happened. You were asked to leave, and where are these criminal charges coming from?
Yes, good morning, Ms. Reed. Thank you for having us on the show today. On Sunday, we were at a Marsha Blackburn rally that we RSVP'd to. We checked in without any issue, made our way to sit down, and within 5 minutes, the security told us that they were informed that we have to leave. And as you saw in the clip previous, we asked why. You know, we did not have any issue. We were on the list. We RSVP'd. It was a public get out the vote rally, and yet the security guard told us to leave. And when the officer came in, they called the police. About 30 minutes later, the officer came in, told me he wanted to talk to me, and then grabbed my hand and began dragging me outside as the crowd tried to USA and hit us and grabbed on us. And then I was brought to jail, released that evening. The night court commissioner told them that she would not file the charges. She would not sign the warrant. And within about 2 days, I got a knock at the door at 9:30 p.m. by Metro Police saying that the district attorney, Glenn Funk, filed a new warrant for my arrest for the same charges.
And Justin, what do you think drew attention to you? Were you all saying anything? Were you doing anything? Or was it the fact, quite bluntly, that you were African-American in a room that didn't have a lot of diversity in it?
I think what is crazy is that we weren't thrown out for saying anything. We were thrown out for listening. We're thrown out for trying to hear about how the issues that were being discussed at this rally affected people who looked like us. And so Marsha Blackburn said we were disruptive, which is untrue. The only thing that was disruptive about us was that we were young people of color in a room in which we were not welcome. And it's interesting that we come from Nashville, where we have a history of young people being thrown out of establishments because of how they look. John Lewis is from here. Diane Nash is from here. And so, you know, it's they're taking us back to times that we don't really want to go to, and so.
We're talking, Bishop Barber, a lot about the South and about the real uprising, I guess you'd have to say, among African-American voters in the South, starting with Alabama and Virginia, where a lieutenant governor who's African-American was elected, moving now down south, your state of North Carolina, all the lawsuits that have had to be filed. You have a lot of experience getting arrested, protesting injustice. What is this about? Are you surprised that people would be willing to be so flagrant as to arrest young people merely for being in the room when it is clear how that is going to play on a national stage?
I mean, think about it. You have young people in the room, and there were whites there as well, white students. It's as though the Republican extremists, I can no longer say Republican Party, they don't want certain people in their rallies, they don't want immigrants in the country, and they don't want black people to vote. Why? Because now we are seeing the possibility of this new moral fusion in the South. I've been talking about, you and I have been talking about it for years. It was time. The South is not the old South. The demographics have shifted. You register 30% of African-American voters, connect them with progressive whites and Latinos. States like Georgia, Alabama, North Carolina, Virginia change. The world changes. The politics of the nation changes. So people are afraid that their world is changing, and it is. Yeah. And so what's happening is people are going back to an old playbook. That's why we saw voter suppression starting in 2010, not when Trump. That's why we see him playing to this race. That's why we see people like the Secretary of State here playing to it. But it's also why we're seeing the courts ruling it illegal. It's amazing to me when people say it's not happening, but the courts are saying it's illegal. We won in North Carolina, both against gerrymandering, voter suppression, and the court said it was surgical. Victory just here this week in Georgia. We are in a third Reconstruction shift of our society and our politics, and for some people, that's a fear.
And you know, it's important, I think, to take this outside of Donald Trump, because Donald Trump did not start this. This is happening independent of him.
It is important to take it outside of him, because then you think that he is the problem and not the symptom. Donald Trump is speaking to an audience that's been cultivated since 1968. When Kevin Phillips told Richard Nixon, if we engage in positive polarization, and if we engage in finding out who hates who and pit them against each other, even though they actually ought to be allies, poor and low-income whites and blacks and brown ought to be allies, we can win the South. If we make the Democratic Party, in their mind, the black party, getting all this free stuff, and the Republican Party, Strom Thurmond came in, Jesse Helms came in. That's the playbook that everybody, Reagan ran it, George H.W. Bush ran it. Trump, though, is running it to the extreme.
Yeah.
And these other people that are coming up now, like the Secretary of State here, they're running it to the extreme. Why? Because they see it falling apart.
Yeah.
They see it falling apart.
And Justin, I wonder if in your Democrat, because sort of the conceit is that this is only happening among Americans of a certain age and up. But I'm wondering if in your generation you're also seeing an uptick in the kind of open, sort of blatant racism and nativism that we're seeing nationwide.
Yes, ma'am. Many of the people, at this rally, the people who were grabbing us and who were hitting us were young people. And it surprised me because, to see students who go to other universities here in Nashville engaging in this type of violence and racism, and it's kind of like a spirit took over when they're chanting USA as they engage in this violence against us and cheer that we're being beaten. And I question that, is this the USA that they're trying to, to see to future generations? Is this the USA that we're comfortable with keeping? Because, one thing that was also clear is that there was 10 of us actually in this room when we first walked in. 4 of us were African-American, 6 white. Only the African-American students were targeted. Only the African-American students were told to leave. Only the African-American students were handcuffed and put in police cars. And I think that's shameful. And it's shameful that, even in a time where someone's running to represent the state of Tennessee, that extremists like Marsha Blackburn don't want to represent all Tennesseans. And I think that is immoral, it is extreme, and it is absurd that in 2018 that we're still dealing with this. Things that my grandmother told me about.
Yeah.
That's right.
And Justin is a divinity student. So,
he's a divinity student.
Yeah.
He's a friend of mine. He's a son in ministry. He's a person that was involved in Morrill, Tennessee. But think about what this is also saying. They're shouting to get him out. But the candidate they're there to support wants to take their health care. Will not provide them living wages. It is as though people are running on this racist voters discrimination ticket, using racism to get elected, and then hurting mostly white people in raw numbers, black people in percentage. The height of immorality. We're in Georgia right now, where Lex Maddox said one of the greatness of America was discrimination. So people are saying, elect me, like Blackburn and like Kemp here, elect me. I'll take your voting rights. I'll deny you health care. I won't focus on a living wage. I won't focus on giving you labor rights. I'll cut your public education. But at least I will have held up the banner of discrimination. I mean, it is so immoral what these politicians are doing and how they're playing on people. And it's time for us in the South to reject that and begin to build these deep moral fusion coalitions. And I would say to parties, do not just do this till November and quit. Right. It is time to come south and work hard for years and years to come to break through this stuff and let a new South rise that's focused on justice, love, and everybody having a place.
Indeed. Bishop William Barber, thank you very much. Always appreciate the chance to talk to you in person is even better. Justin Jones, good luck to you. Keep us posted on what's going on with you, young man. Thank you very much for being here.
And we're going to get out the vote here as young people, so thank you.
All right. You do that. All right. We love it. We love young people voting. Coming up.